What's the scenario?
Welcome. Come on in, close the door behind you and pull up a seat to the grown-ups table. You are listening once again to the scenario, a freestyle episode. That's what we're doing today. It means we got a mixed bag. You know, we can't be topical all the time. We got to just have a little bit of this and that. Whatever the case, the most important thing is we are now in Black History Month. We are always black, but this month we are extra black. Blackity black, and a little black on top of that. That's how it's going down with the scenario. I am your host, Van Everett. My man B Cub, everybody's favorite play cousin, isn't with us today. He is out on the road doing his comedy thing. They've been doing a really dope comedy tour. It's him and Renard Hirsch, a friend of the show, El Renage, as we call him. And Mike James. Yeah, they've got a comedy tour. If you get a chance, make sure to go and check B Cub out. He's out on the road slinging them jokes. So today it's me and, of course, my producer, Dana Dane.
Yeah.
And we've got some guests with us. Our guest co-host, friend of the show, repeat offender, Melonee Gaines. Melonee, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been folks like, Melonee who? Hey, y'all, it's been a minute. It's so good. Happy New Year and happy Black History Month as well.
Yeah, all of that, all the good black stuff. And our special guest with us today is Anthony Stewart. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to have you.
Good.
Anthony is the author of By the Hand or By the Pen, the Anthology of Black American Radical Abolition, Resistance, and Revolution. Now, if we say that again, we're just going to say By the Hand or By the Pen, and I'm going to let the rest just
That's all right.
stick in your brain from there. We got him on today. I ran across Anthony's link for the book, which is just dropped. Make sure to go and check it out. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's about Black resistance specifically and abolition as well. And I was like, I don't know if we get a lot of conversation around that. And it's something that's been on my mind. So I was like, I want to get him on the show. We're going to talk about that. We're going to do a whole lot of other stuff as we often do on our freestyle episodes. Y'all know how it is. Have a fun time. Today's musical theme. The show is entitled Award Tour because today's musical theme is our favorite artists that we've seen live, the best live performance we've ever seen. So whoever it is you've seen live, we're going to be finding out about that. And that will be on our companion playlist that you can find exclusively on Spotify. Depending upon how many concerts you go to, maybe you've seen some pretty great live performances. I love music, but I've come to the realization I don't go to concerts nearly as much as other people. How about both of you? You big concert goers?
I'm looking for concerts now. I feel like at least once a month for me. I got to see some music.
All right, so you're doing it for real.
Yeah, she's doing it for real. I'm more into local musicians. I go see, live music and things of that nature. But in terms of bigger artists, maybe once a year or so, I would say.
Yeah. I'm probably closer aligned to you. I don't do a lot. And what I realized, and I realized this when me and my wife were talking about this when I was telling her about what the show's going to be. I think the thing is that I'm somebody who I love live performance, but I don't like going to see an artist just because I like their songs. There are artists that I like as artists because I love their recordings, but I don't want to see them live. And then there are artists that I love to see live, but I don't really want to buy their music. I just like to see them live because I like what they do live. For me, the two aren't interconnected. I'm not somebody who you can take me to a show and then it's an artist that does my favorite song. And I'm like, ooh, I can't wait for him to do my favorite songs. Like, if he doesn't do it well, I don't care what he does. I need to see a good performance. So, yeah.
Right. And I think for me, I think it is the socialization of music. Like I live in coastal Mississippi, but I'm 30 minutes from New Orleans. And so people like, PJ Morton, who I absolutely love and grew up knowing about his family, seeing his dad on TV. There's such a part of kind of like our local music scene. But for everybody else, they're like, oh my God, this is huge artist or whatever. But they're often putting on fundraisers to support music foundation, especially with the kids. And so I love to support our local artists that are embedded into the community. So that usually is what gets me out. So besides making the money off the ticket, how else are you helping the community?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And the socialization part sounds real good. That definitely sounds good. So, to get things rolling, to get us in the mood for it, we're going to go with one of the most iconic Black performances in music that everybody's familiar with, at least of a certain age, and that's Earth, Wind, and Fire with
Mm.
True Devotion, right here on
All
the
right.
scenario. When we come back, we're going to get into the segment formerly known as This Week in Black Twitter, y'all.
This is Tamiko Harvey of Passports and Grub, and that is the scenario.
Hey, this is Danielle McGee from Black Business Boom, reminding you to shop black and save, and that's the scenario.
It's the segment formerly known as This Week in Black Twitter, y'all. Yeah, we still call it Black Twitter.
My name is Twitter, I'm gonna call him Twitter.
Child.
All right, y'all know what it is. You heard the theme music. It's time once again for the segment formerly known as This Week in Black Twitter, y'all, with Dana Dane. Dana, what is going on in the world this week?
Ooh, Lord. It's the 1st of February at the time of this recording, and let me say, this been a crazy 31 days.
Right.
It's like it
Crazy
just started
31.
off, like, is this
Barely
the
made it
Twilight Zone? Like, what is happening? We done had planes crashing. We done had Trump acting a fool, and there's been 3 letters on everybody's mind, in everybody's mouth, on everybody's social media, these last couple weeks especially. And those letters are D, E, and I. Well, what does that mean, you may ask? You know what? I read a great article on ABC News, and they defined it very well. You know, DEI don't mean black, y'all. It don't mean, it don't mean Negro, okay? It don't
does
mean
not.
that. It stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity refers to the representation of people of a variety now of backgrounds, okay, at all levels in the organization, okay? Race, gender, disability, religion, age, sexual orientation, class. Kind of sounds like equal opportunity. I don't know. Sounds like it's not just about black people. Equity focuses on the fairness, okay? The fairness, and referring to whether or not people are fairly paid within the workplace, given all those things I named before, race, disability, things like that. Inclusion is about whether people feel like they belong or not in the workplace, and whether they feel heard and valued in the organization. I'm still trying to figure out where in those definitions it said black. But anyway, a lot of things been going on, okay? Target, Walmart, and other businesses have decided to get rid of those initiative programs, those DEI programs, which kind of only came into play after George Floyd's murder. While we were saying, hey, we don't want to be killed in the streets, they said, hey, we'll buy your product. Because that was a Band-Aid to it, if you want to be honest.
Right.
Didn't really get the nail on the head with that, but now they're taking it away. And we are starting to turn on folk of our own, like Tabitha Brown, for example. She has a lot of products in Walmart and Target specifically. And we kind of been calling for boycotts. But she's like, hey, my stuff's still in there. Y'all gonna buy it or not? Because that can hurt the people that's already there. Like, are we gonna boycott or not? And a lot of people wasn't into that. Did y'all hear about that?
She hit us with the,
Absolutely.
are we good? Are we still good?
Hey.
But are we still good? That's what's happening.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, I think here's my thing. I'm not going to say whether anyone should continue to buy products from black creators or whatnot in these places or not. I am going to say that there has never been a time in the history of America where black people did not have to make some sacrifice in order to get some sort of progress, or in order to make sure that their voices are heard. Every one of us is navigating white supremacy at our jobs, wherever we are, every store we go to, we are in some way, form, or fashion navigating white supremacy. So the question is, which way do you choose to navigate it? Some people think that that means we need to stick by those people who are in Target and buy in Target. Some people say, well, let's buy online and not buy in Target. Some people say, let's just forget both of them altogether. I'm not saying which one is wrong, but I'm saying you got to make a choice, and that somebody gonna have to sacrifice something.
I think when it comes to initiatives like this that were the result or the outcome of someone's brutal murder that was recorded on video, traumatized an entire community, and thinking that DEI would be another initiative, you know, just like some of the laws that we have on the books, and asking these systems, can you just do what's on paper? Can you just do what is right? And we've had a number of African American and Hispanic folks that have been killed since George Floyd. And I would also like to know a quantitative and a qualitative result of how far we have progressed since those DEI initiatives. And just a side note that made me tickle a little bit was when I saw Al Sharpton leading a group of Black folks into Costco. It was the irony of it all. So they didn't get rid of their DEI. So let me bring a gang of my folks into a Costco to let them know we good over here. So I'm not sure what that means in terms of our progress when they know that African Americans are huge consumers and come with a lot of financial, weight. We come with the bag. So no one wants to lose that sellership, but how effective are boycotts to this day? So
Go ahead.
I think we also have to establish an end goal. You know what I mean? Like, what's our end goal? What are we looking to accomplish? Right. I think that's the main point. And then also, as DEI research comes out and who's benefiting most from it, I think it kind of parallels to affirmative action, where we find out white women are taking advantage of it and using it and having the most success with it. Right. And it's we kind of falling on the back burner with it, no matter how many products we may have in Walmart or Target, right? White women kind of find a way to push their narrative into the conversation with these type of initiatives.
Yeah, and for some reason, a Twitter user says y'all driving Teslas, using Twitter, got Amazon subscriptions, frequent Walmart, eat a Chick-fil-A on a daily, but Tabitha Brown is where you draw the line in boycott. Of course, the Black woman is at fault for protecting her brand. She has a contract, you idiots. She has a contract, which I do understand. We want that girl to break her contract and lose her money. Ain't we supposed to be supporting her? Somebody said, I don't like what Tabitha Brown said, though, because she's insinuating that the fate of her brand and other Black brands are in the hands of boycotting Black customers. Instead of placing the blame on actual companies rolling back DEI initiatives that will likely drop her. I don't know. I can see both sides in that, because we're boycotting Target, but then it does mean we're not going to be buying Tabitha Brown stuff from Target. She is like, that's a Black person we need to be supporting. She ain't did nothing to nobody. I don't know. I just see it that way. What do y'all think?
Does she have her stuff online?
Possibly. Like through her own, not through Target online, just her own website and stuff?
Yeah, can you buy her products online? If you can buy her products online, then there it is. And that's the same for any of the other people who are in Target, Black people who are in Target. If you can buy their stuff online, then you can buy it online. Now, again, I think Anthony makes a great point. What is the end goal? There needs to be an end goal. A boycott always has to have an end goal. We are going to not do this until you do this. That's what is usually established.
Do they ever?
Right.
What is the expectation when we're asking systems, structures, capitalists, millionaires to do the things that everyday working class people are asking for? What does a DEI initiative look like that has been done successfully that could be implemented nationwide? What type of strategic changes have we done in dismantling these same system structures, institutions, and millionaires and billionaires? What has been put in its place? It's very similar to what's happening with public education. We're asking for systems to hack off parts of itself when it was built that way. And Tabitha Brown, shout out to her, girl, get your coin. She's a millionaire now. She's got herself out of North Carolina and has made it this far. She's made it. She's just like Jordan. Ain't nobody asking Jordan for validation. We still wearing the shoes and knowing that he invests in private prisons. So it's just, what can you do but worry about your block and worry about your own? That's how I feel about a lot of these initiatives.
I agree about the initiatives, because I think anytime you ask yourself, anytime you're asking a structure that is inherently racist, where can we fit in, then you're going to be creating a problem. You're going to be walking into a problem. There's just no way around it. I do think that we often have to, the question I think a lot of us need to ask ourselves is, what is the best way for us to circumvent as much of this as possible? Again, it still comes back to a sacrifice. I don't mind if people say, well, we just aren't going to deal with these stores at all, but I recognize what that means. I recognize that Publix also gave money to Trump. I also recognize that Walmart ended their DEI initiative as well. It's like, so I know that the path, that whatever the path may be, is super narrow, and that it's a that there is no ideologically pure way to fight racism in America. You're making a choice. You're making a deal with one devil or another. The question is, how much farther ahead can you get right now with this particular devil? I think that's the question. So I say that, not saying, again, I don't want to sound like I think Tabitha is our enemy or anybody else any more so than anyone, but we just have to be decisive. Whenever we are making these demands, we need to not make a demand that someone else sacrifice and then act as if there's no room for us to sacrifice, because it's going to have to be, regardless of what we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
We're
also
all participating in capitalism.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And also realizing that, again, DEI don't just mean black. It affects ramps and sidewalks. It affects subtitles and captions on TV, flexible work schedules, not having to accept workplace harassment. It just seemed like people are trying to make it just like how in 2020, how Black Lives Matter seemed to be a threat somehow when it was supporting black people, or in 2022, critical race theory, or even last year when it was the word woke. Now it's DEI. So much so that y'all president now, I'm gonna say y'all, okay, I ain't vote for the man. Y'all president is blaming that on tragedies that have happened in this last week. We lost 67 passengers in the American airline crash in DC with a government helicopter. And then also there was a crash in Philly just yesterday. And for some reason, without investigating, he wants to blame that on DEI. Meanwhile, y'all know he cut the budget for the safety just a couple days prior. I don't think he said that part. He ain't tell us that part. He want to pass the buck. But AOC says that she represents LaGuardia Airport area and the JFK workers, and said that Trump gutted the Aviation Safety Committee the week prior. Air traffic controllers already were understaffed. They got a buyout this week, and they had a 1-week ultimatum to decide. So him trying to say it's because of unqualified hires, it's just not true at all. And I wonder why. Why does this keep going?
What makes him qualified for the position that he's in, right?
How about that?
That's the conversation as well, right? So, but going back to our point with DEI and all of that, I think community, really, we got to focus on building community. I think if we really focus on, we have sub-communities, but when we really feel a connection to each other in a way where we're responsible for each other, I think we both make sacrifices on different sides, right? So the same way Black people who shop at Target every day or for their resources have to say, I got to take a step back, Tabitha may also have to take a step back in a way, right? There were Black people who worked for the busing industry during the busing boycotts, during the sit-ins. There were Black people who were, working in the back and things like that, who might have had to take the brunt of what was going on during that time. But I think it just really depends on us, leaning on each other as a community where we feel a responsibility to each other. I think that's where the conversation really comes in.
Yeah. And I think in addition to that, to speak to the workers and the strength of the workers, we've had some profound, action with our unions last year, especially trying to unionize at Amazon, and how some of those efforts were thwarted by some of those same companies. And so even retail workers have a union. And I think that is a source of community. So if the DEI initiatives are limited or removed, how are the workers empowered to work with the company through their unions? But I think a lot of retail workers probably should look more into joining a union, or even knowing that that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, unions, that's a big part of it. And that's just something that people don't even think about most of the time. Most of the time, the reason things get racialized is because when you talk about things in that fashion, it keeps people from even thinking about the other mechanisms that are in place. So, and it's hard for us to resist the conversation because we recognize, because it hits us first when it's racialized, when those conversations are racialized. I mean, let's be honest, when they say DEI, they're saying it with a hard R. We hear it that way. Because we understand. Yeah, we know it's not just about us, but we know when they say it, we know what they mean.
They make it about us. Yeah.
Because every time the new term comes out, it's always a new term to replace the N word. So
Right.
it becomes difficult for us to not respond to it a lot of times. Where it's like, okay, well, yeah, we do need to be thinking about community and the things that Anthony was talking about, and we do need to be thinking about unionization and the things that Melonee was talking about, and let them say what they're going to say, because what we found is they are going to say it regardless. But yes, sometimes it's difficult for us to avoid
Race is a
conversations.
distraction. That's what Toni Morrison said.
Mm.
Race is a distraction. Workers are the antidote to capitalism.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
Absolutely.
I agree. But y'all, that's all I got for this week in Black Twitter. It's been a heavy 30 days. It's been a heavy 2 weeks. Wasn't nothing funny to talk about this week.
Right.
But yeah, that's all I got.
A little bit.
Just a little giggle, but ain't nothing sweet. Okay, we in business mode. We in protect ourselves mode.
Thanks to the week.
Right.
To it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're gonna do what we can to try to at least continue to try to find ways to eke out joy wherever we can. We can't lose
Absolutely.
our sense of joy. Got to remember that. Dana, speaking of joy, what is your song pick for today's playlist?
Ooh, this was a tough one. One of my favorite artists that I seen live was Jasmine Sullivan. Okay, the gal can sing. I ain't seen her since the reality show tour back when I was in college. But baby, missed a note where? Didn't. Sang to the rafters, sang down to the depths of her soul. So I got to pick some off the reality show album. And for me, I need some inspiration. So I'm going to go with Mona Lisa by Jasmine Sullivan.
All right, we're going to check out Jasmine Sullivan right here with the scenario. When we come back, we are going to sit down and chat. Well, we're already sitting down, but y'all know what I mean. We're going to sit down and chat with Anthony Stewart about his new book, By the Hand or By the Pen.
I'm Erica J. Kendrick, a suicide survivor living with and thriving with bipolar disorder, major depression, and anxiety. I live by my mental fitness plan, and that's the scenario.
Jasmine Sullivan, that was Dana Dane's pick. I have not seen her live yet. I'm looking forward to seeing her live because I already think she's such a great vocalist, but yeah, I haven't made it happen yet. Melonee has already told me that I absolutely need to see her live.
Worth it.
Got to.
Every time.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. That's on my bucket list now. I put that on my bucket list. I got a full bucket right now. I ain't going to lie to you, but I'm working on it.
You do slow and steady. Yeah, I'm about to say he's slow and steady now.
What are you doing? What are you doing over there?
Dana knows me. I get around to it, but it takes me a minute to get around to it.
And then I'll bring it up to you like it's new. Have you ever heard of this artist called?
I do not.
Now I done told you that for 10 years, and now you act like you just.
I do not bring it up new. I usually just say, "Hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z." And you're like, "Yeah, didn't I tell you about this?" I say, "Yeah, you told me about it 5 years ago, but I'm saying I'm just."
But now I'm telling you is what you be like. Oh, okay.
See what you said? Like you haven't. The first time you saw it was 10 years ago, Dana, and I'm like, man, it has been that long. So
It's been a
damn,
while.
it's time.
I know. I
Her
know.
daughter, she might have a daughter, and the daughter doesn't come up, and you finally seeing her.
And I'll be watching Jasmine Sullivan Jr. Talking about, hey, have y'all heard about Jasmine Sullivan Jr.?
The second coming.
All right, well, yeah, I'll get to it. All right, so we are going to have a chat now with our special guest, Anthony Stewart, the author of By the Hand or By the Pen, the Anthology of Black American Radical Abolition, Resistance, and Revolution, 1526 to 1865. Let me ask you this. Okay, so you're covering a pretty long historical timeline. What was the most surprising or personally moving discovery that you made in the midst of your research? Like, what was the one thing that really just struck you?
Oh, that's a great question. One thing that really struck me was just the details that are left out of people who we know very well as a culture, right? So, for instance, Sojourner Truth. Most of us know, her story, but a lot of people don't know that she's the first Black American in this country to sue a white man and win. She sued for, in New York, 2 years after slavery was outlawed in New York. She, her former slave master had sold one of her children, and she sued him to get her child back. And it's the first time a Black person had ever sued somebody in court. Another thing, right? I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Thomas Jennings. Thomas Jennings is the first Black man to receive a patent in the U.S., which I think is in 1821 for the dry cleaning process. So the
Mm.
entire process of dry cleaning came from this man. And of course, as we know, Black
Wow.
people were inventing things way before we got a patent for it. But the fact that we were able to coin our intellectual property, I think that spoke volumes. You know, we can't even fathom how many white people tried to go after him just for the fact that he owned something, right? That was value. And so I think those stories, I think, really they made me want to dive deeper. Now, of course, it's the book is titled By the Hand or By the Pen because I show ways in which we were radical and showed resistance through force, through physical force, but also through legislation and through literature and things of that nature. And so I think it's a culmination of a lot of different things, but those two things stand out at the moment.
I love how you've defined resistance around that. I
Mm.
think a lot of times people look to examples like Nat Turner
Right.
as an ideal for resistance, but I think
Mhm.
looking at the intellectual capacity, the innovation,
Mhm.
a lot of those things that are aligned with Black excellence are forms of resistance. It's almost like how we redefine what rest means for African
Mm.
Americans in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why did you
Right.
think that the intellectual process and even the legislation is still important for people to study and for people to really understand that this is a part of our history?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's monumental in the fact that you really don't know. You know, I often hear people say, you know, well, when you bring up Black issues, well, what are we going to do? What's the plan? What are we supposed to do? And immediately, what I think of is, well, you haven't studied history. You're not looking at the ideas and the plans that people have laid out before you, because there's a lot to
Blueprint
be
is
taken from that. The
already there.
blueprints, right? We stand on people's shoulders, and this is why it was so important for me to kind of compartmentalize it to Black Americans because we have to understand our history to know that we've been dealing with this for a long time, right? And I noticed that you also, Van, that you stressed that it starts in 1526. A lot of people start in 1619 because that's when the British got here. But they
Mm-hmm.
don't realize that the Spanish and the French and many other different European powers were in America doing different things, having slaves, you know, creating a culture that eventually became what we know as the United States. And so, just understanding what came before us, I think that if you can look at somebody in 1821 and say this guy had enough prowess to say, you know what, let me go protect my intellectual thoughts, my intellectual property, right? Let me go secure this for my people or for the community, whatever the case may be. It shows you that okay, well, how important, if it was that important in 1821, it has to be that important in 2025 to make sure that we're protecting our intellectual process and what we contribute to the canon of literacy and invention. You know what I mean?
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So strategically speaking, first thing I think it's important for us to also recognize because as you were mentioning, a lot of times people are like, well, what's the plan? You know, they don't
Mm-hmm.
really have any context about
Mm-hmm.
what's happened historically before. And we recognize there's a lot about our history most people don't even have any idea about. But
Right.
when people do, I guess, begin to try to take some of that in, and they still maybe don't really have a good grasp of strategy, what do you think are some of the more applicable strategies that people have employed in the past that we could be using more of now
Mm.
based on what you've
Well,
researched?
going back to community, right? We have, you know, a lot of times when we reach a certain level of success, we look to go to a white-minded space. We look to go somewhere where we can be validated by other people. And I think prior to integration, prior to the Civil War, prior to many different events, we were all we had. And so you could be a Black millionaire and the community would still hold you accountable to, you know what I mean, to have to pour into what they had going on and to push that forward. And so I think that one of the best things that we can kind of employ as we move forward is that um, when we when we reach a certain level of success, we have to feel like we have an obligation. I think that you see many more examples of that in history and in the past than we do today, where people almost have this individualized mindset. Now, of course, that goes into capitalism and a lot of other different issues. But I think that having the idea that we are all tied into this together and that we have a collective history and a collective agenda to push. I think that that's the first thing. That's the first step, and then finding credibility and relevancy in history. Right? A lot of people don't think that there's any importance in revisiting history. And so
Yeah.
if you're not looking at David Walker's appeal to the colorless citizens of the world, where he's telling people in 1850 to pick up guns and do what they need to do, right? The slave master's already done as much as he can do to you. There's not much else he can do, right? So when you see that there are people like that who were always kind of, even if they had no vested interest in it, they still felt like they were a part of the community where they had to push that, you know, because David Walker at this time, he was a free man at this time, but just feeling like, you know, we have a community. Even if I'm not in that position, I still have an obligation to help somebody who is, you know what I mean, of my heritage, of my culture. Yeah.
What an important thing to say in terms of the millionaires feeling obligated. I recently moved from Memphis, and what a amazing history of resistance that is not
Oh yeah,
seen
my
here.
family's from Memphis. Yeah,
Come on
yeah.
now. And so
So,
knowing
yeah.
that South Memphis, which I really
hmm
consider downtown, parts of it is still downtown Memphis. A lot of your
Right.
Black millionaires lived in that community. They did not
hmm
leave the community once they
hmm
got their money. A lot of them were dentists,
Right.
lawyers, they had their shops
hmm
and everything, but they built
hmm
mutual aid in the
hmm
community support, but
hmm
they did not leave the community. Do you think that there is a sense of leaving the community in order to have a sense of success versus community? And is it harder to get away, or is it harder to be on your own away from community?
Mm. Well, I think that's a unique situation, a unique question. I think that for many people, I think that they buy into the idea of white-mindedness, and I think that's kind of just a part of being in America, right? You have to some degree, um, integrate in that world. But I think once the credibility of seeing, right, you don't, most Black millionaires feel a sense of, when I make it, I have to get out in order for me to live the life that I want to live, or people will try to pull me down. Right? We look at each other as attack forces, as opposed to, these people can help me push my business. These are my main clients. These are people who, you know, are trying to see me succeed. And so I think the way that I would answer that is, there are you have to have a collective understanding that our history and our success here is tied together. And so again, if you don't feel a sense of pride in being Black, a sense of pride in what the people before you did, you are always going to feel like you need to get away, or that there's something to get away from. But I think if you understand the history, and if you come up in a family where you see the intricacies of Blackness, you see the importance of it, you see why it's permeated American culture the way that it is, you realize the importance of us sticking together and us saying, okay, let's build our communities up. Let's make this something where people now want to come here. And of course, we had communities like that, but they were always under attack, right? We have communities that were burned down. And you look at Lake Lanier in Georgia, they flooded an entire city with a lake. You know what I mean? And so I think that again, when we were all we had, when we could only look towards each other, it became a conversation of, what can I do to help, as opposed to, what can I do to get away.
Yeah, I think a lot of what's going on for us with that, with in regard to what you guys are talking about, is that we've somehow gotten to a place where we see the Black millionaire, the entertainer, especially the entertainer, the
hmm
athlete, as the people who are supposed to be our leaders and supposed to rescue us from these situations, rather than products of a community that we have already created. And so
Absolutely.
what
Right.
happens is, it never occurs to us to create an environment that would teach them the value of community beforehand. But as soon
Right.
as they get into a particular place, then we're like, well, you've got money, you should be wanting to do for us. And it's like,
Mm.
and it's like, well, that's
Mm.
something we should have been thinking about. You don't send your kid off to every white private school from the time
Mm.
they're in junior high and high school, and then when they go to college, tell them you should go to an HBCU, because we need
Mm.
more of our really great athletes at HBCUs so that we can
Mm.
compete. It's like, you have not given him an
Right.
HBCU environment until
Right.
now. Or
Right.
and I think that's the thing that we seem to be missing, that idea of community, the idea that we need to be pushing these things before someone, because the truth is, a lot of us are only temporarily embarrassed millionaires in our minds. We already don't want to
Right.
be part of the community. It just so
Right.
happens we're here because we have no other choice. And it's like,
Right.
and we're just pretending that we're part of a community, and we're not. And it's like, so I
Right.
think a lot of times it really comes back to us trying to figure out what does it mean for us to be part of the community now, so that when we produce these people, these millionaires or whoever it is, so that people start living like that before they get successful, because it's a necessity that it would be that way. All right, my rant is over there. Anyway,
Good rant, though. Good
yeah.
rant.
So you covered now when we were talking off air, you were saying this has been about a decade's worth of effort for you to put this
Right.
together, doing this research.
Right.
I gotta imagine over that period of time that can be on some level emotionally draining.
Oh yeah.
It can be
Absolutely.
a bit of a heavy burden, a heavy task to fulfill. In what ways did this process change you or affect you in any kind of way?
Well, I went through the moments where I, was disheartened and kind of, sad for the experiences and the things that I was reading about, but it also was an empowering experience, right? It also was, wow, that's what they kept from us. This is what we didn't know. This is what they didn't want us to, you know what I mean, be able to use in our defense against the racialized America and what they've done to us. And so I think that ultimately, because it's necessary work, I felt a sense of pride when I was doing it, right? I felt a sense of execution and community, right? Where I was trying to comprise a bunch of these different histories and different time periods and put them together in a comprehensive way where people could look at it and go, wow, okay, this makes sense. Why didn't my history books do it like this? Why didn't I get this in school? And so ultimately, although there were feelings of sadness and things about what I was reading, it also was, wow, this is empowering. What would this do for the next generation? How does this affect the child who's growing up and he reads about the Sojourner Truth situation or many others? I don't want to spoil too many, but just the instances of Black folks pushing forward, right, despite everything that's going on. And it also makes it where we really don't have room to complain. There's that quote, "I'm not my ancestors," and all that, to imply, we not gonna play with y'all, but you don't even realize the amounts of stress and and institution that was weighing on top of them. So when you read that, for me, I can't help but to get a sense of empowerment and to think about those people who really gave their lives to make sure that we have the lives that we have today. So yeah.
Let's get this book in the schools and the libraries.
Yeah. God willing, absolutely.
Yeah. So one other question. I'm curious. If you could somehow, by virtue of a time machine or something, sit down with one of the people that you've researched and just have a conversation with them, who would it be?
That's interesting. I would say Martin Delaney, Martin Robeson Delaney.
That is my answer in my
That's
head.
my guy.
I
That's
studied
my
him in
guy.
grad school. Amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's
If you know
amazing. And
about Frederick Douglass, you need to know about
yeah,
Martin
you
Delaney.
have to, because that they were the opposing forces. They were the different ideas. They showed the duality of what Black people were thinking during that time. And Martin Delaney, he predates Garvey, right? And a lot of people, they attribute Garvey as being the father of Pan-Africanism, and in many ways he is, right? Especially at the turn of the 20th century. But Martin Delaney, I mean, he was a medical doctor. He was somebody who really didn't have to. He was somebody who escaped slavery very young. He didn't have to do the things that he did and publish the literature that he did, but he felt it necessary. And I think his example, people who look into Martin Delaney, that guy he was a tough guy.
Yes.
And then also Harriet E. Wilson. He was the first Black person in North America to publish a novel. And so just the fact that, she published it, I believe it was in 1845. In many places in the U.S., it was illegal for Black people to read and write. And so just for her to be able to get in a space where she was able to publish a novel and kind of document the history of slavery that oftentimes wasn't really told from a woman's perspective, right? I think that she's somebody else who's very interesting, who I knew little about before I started researching her. She's somebody else I would sit down with.
1800 to 1840 is an amazing period of progress and strategic moving and community building for Black folks, Black
Absolutely.
African diaspora people in this country. An amazing period. that is
Absolutely.
skipped over in the history books, and I wonder why.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They
Yeah.
skip over a lot of that. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Um,
I want to ask both of y'all this. What do you think? Because oftentimes we know that we already know that institutions, a lot of the institutions we deal with, aren't going to do the job, especially where it comes to educating us and educating our children. What do you think we need more of in our communities to make sure that our history is more part of the narrative? Now, understand, just black schools, teaching,
mhm,
reading and all those types of things. But I'm just talking about in the most practical ways, because a lot of times I recognize that just the narrative alone, when you can introduce things into a narrative and people become accustomed to talking about them, then it changes. It just transforms the way you
mhm,
look at the world. What are some of the things that we need to be thinking about when we try to introduce more of our history, these parts of our history, into the narrative?
I would say I have adjusted my expectations when it comes to what it means to tap into community and to lend any knowledge or expertise, because it really could just be one other person.
Hmm.
And
mhm,
just being able to plant that seed of knowledge. As a former educator, I feel like I'm gonna be a lifetime educator because I'm always teaching
mhm,
children. I think
Hmm.
what I love seeing are these Saturday school movements, because we know a lot
mhm,
of this stuff is not going to be put into these prescribed curriculums, because they want children to know only certain aspects of the Black experience in
mhm,
this country.
mhm.
But we have individuals that are just hosting free classes to teach Black History
Right,
Month,
right.
or to teach Black history. When I was a child, I learned it at Sunday school. But a lot of people have
Mhm,
walked away from the church since the pandemic. And so we
mhm,
don't really have a lot of these embedded institutions into our communities. But
Hmm.
I love what is happening with some of these after school programs and with
mhm.
the Saturday school movement.
Right.
Initially started, I want to say, that sister out of Greenwood who represents that community that was
Mhm.
Hmm.
burned down to
Wow,
the ground
wow,
when they were
wow.
trying to
The
have
irony, huh?
whole
Wow,
community,
wow.
So looking at what happened in Tulsa, and now it's
Mhm.
being resurrected into, we're going to teach this generation our history and then some.
Right, right.
Hmm.
I think getting the children excited. I think that studies have shown that children who are introduced to their history early on, they have a willingness to learn. They have a willingness to engage, right? A lot of times our children are disengaged in school because they feel like the teacher who's talking isn't speaking to them. They're not, they can't see themselves in what's being taught to them. And I think that, again, I think that's why these Saturday schools matter. Once kids realize what was being hidden from them, they realize, oh no, I'm going to go to school on Saturday. I'm going to go, get this information and find out what's going on. I think that creates a willingness to learn. And I think that's what sparked it in me. My parents, even though we didn't necessarily, have black conversations every day and things of that nature. When I walked around, it was black art everywhere, right? People were proud to be black. There was a sense of community where I wanted to be like the elders that I saw. I thought they were cool. I thought that, and they were talking about these things that were relevant in a different kind of way. And so I think if we can engage the youth, we can change any situation that we have in our community. But I think that those who can have to do, you know what I mean? And if you're not giving, you're taking. And so everybody has to have some sense of, okay, what can I contribute to make sure that the issues I dealt with as it relates to education and misinformation, the next generation won't have to deal with that.
And I think you said a word. We have to step into our elderhood. We are the elders
Mm-hmm.
now. Gen X,
Absolutely.
older
Yeah.
millennial, we are
Mm-hmm.
the elders. And so
Absolutely.
I'm a sponge. After a while, I'm going to have to start pouring and squeezing
Mm-hmm.
out that knowledge that I have,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't just die with it. So
Right.
whatever I
Right.
know, we have to teach these young kids
Mm-hmm.
everything that
Mm-hmm.
we know to keep the
Yeah.
history going, to keep the stories going.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Many
feel
of our
that. Yeah.
grandparents. Yeah, many
Mhm.
of our grandparents, I know my great grandparents, many of them didn't have, they had second, third grade educations, but they
Oh,
had a parable for everything in life, right? They had a saying for everything in life. And so we have to step into that role, like you said. Absolutely.
So, Anthony, first,
Mhm.
let's make sure everybody knows where they can find the book. Let's do that before I ask you
Okay, yeah.
the question.
Absolutely. So by the hand or by the pen, you can find it on Amazon. It's on Amazon now, and it's also on my personal website at arsjmedia.com. And those are the two places you can find it.
All right. Make sure to go check this out, y'all. Again, we spend a lot of times talking about the things that we are not being taught by the people who would not teach us those things. But we have opportunities right here to pick it up and share it, learn it ourselves and share it. That's another thing. A lot of us keep talking about what our kids aren't being taught, knowing that we don't know it ourselves half the time. Like,
Right.
you know,
Let's learn
That part.
yeah, 2/3 of every answer you have for your child around Black history is Martin Luther King. Then you need to be looking at this book too. Let's not play games. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but
Right.
make sure to check it out. It's out there. It's on Amazon. By the hand and by the pen. It's definitely going to be worth your time. This is something that goes way beyond February, so make sure to
Absolutely.
have that
Absolutely.
handy.
Thank you.
So Anthony, your favorite live performance that you have ever seen? Who was it?
I saw Bruno Mars when he did his performance in Harlem, and he's different. Bruno Mars is. I thought that was a great performance. I think that he gives tribute to history when he performs, right? The music that inspired him, and I think that that's important for me with a performance. I'd say Bruno Mars.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular song you want to go with for our playlist?
Oh well, in terms of the playlist, I'm sorry. Well, can I take that back? Can I do another one?
Well,
Backsy backsy.
Okay.
see
Well,
what you got.
I would do I like the album that he did with Anderson .Paak. A specific song I can't think of at the moment.
About to say, you
But,
ain't finna choose that new Sexy Red and Bruno song?
I'm not gonna pick that. But if I'm able
now.
if I'm able to switch, I would go to Anderson .Paak, and I would say the song that I would pick from him is "Living" off his Yes Lord album. I love that. I love that. That's one of my favorite albums. I think he's exceptional.
All right. What we're gonna do is we'll go with Silk Sonic. That way you get a little bit of both.
All right, there you go. You got it. That's what I was thinking. Right. That's what I was thinking about. Right.
Yeah,
that works.
Compromise. All right, we're gonna check that out right here on the Scenario. When we come back, we're gonna check out the wins and the losses that have been coming down the pike with Win Some, Lose Some.
Hey, what's up? This is Tweet, and you're listening to the Scenario Radio Show.
Hey, what's up? This is Anthony Hamilton, and you're checking me out right here on the Scenario Radio Show.
Hi, this is Boo Mitchell from Royal Studios, and I'm listening to the Scenario Radio Show.
Hey, Scenario fam, this is your man B-Cub. Look, I had to hit y'all up with my pick, best live performance. It took me a while because I was trying to think of just everybody I've seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of great performances in my life. As a young man, my mother and grandmother took me to go see Tina Turner, and I thought that was pretty cool after the fact. I was young, so I didn't really appreciate it. I just knew, I think I was like maybe 9, 10, and I didn't know what I was feeling, but we were kind of close, and I can kind of look at her legs and around it. She had this dress, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I know it's pretty cool. But that's not my best. That's just one of the most memorable. Also, high on my list, Anthony Hamilton is cold. He's off the chain. I've seen him numerous times. I actually saw him for free once, and he was so good. I buy tickets every time he's close, but that's not the best. Also, you know what? Up high on my list, seeing Sinbad perform for the first time. It's not just music. Like seeing him perform live for the first time, that was pretty dope. But I would have to say the greatest performance I've ever seen live was 1998 Tennessee State University, the Hard Knock Life Tour. It was Redman, Method Man, the Murder Inc. dudes, I think Ja Rule and all them. Jay-Z was headlining because, of course, it's the Hard Knock Life Tour. But the performance that's just like, remember seeing it, was seeing DMX. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's actually a clip that's going around the internet now with Jay-Z talking about he doesn't know what he was thinking by going behind DMX, but all the stuff you see on TV, the performances, he prayed, it was great, man, it was nuts. I just remember that was the greatest performance. And I mean, during that concert, dude, Redman and Method Man trapeze from the top of the Gentry Center at TSU and passed a blunt to somebody. It was some wild stuff going on in that concert, but DMX by far greatest performance I've ever seen in my life. That's my pick right here on the Scenario.
All right, that was B-Cub's pick. He went with DMX. He says that's one of the greatest live performances that he has ever seen in his lifetime. I hear a lot of people say a lot of great things about the late, great DMX. On our episode award tour, we are talking about some of our favorite live performances. That's what we've got for our playlist. Make sure to go to Spotify so that you can check out our companion playlist. This one and a whole lot of others. We have some really great stuff along with, of course, really good shows that you can find wherever great podcasts are found, and also on www.thescenarioradioshow.com. We were just talking a moment ago off air about the Cosby Show. As a matter of fact, we did an episode celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Cosby Show. If you want to hear that, you need to go check it out. It was a really interesting discussion. But enough about that. Let's get back into what we're doing right now and jump into our first Win Some, Lose Some of season 9. It's time once again for us to check in with our guests about the wins and the losses, because sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. We want to hear about both right here on Scenario. We're going to start like we always do with Dana Dane on the other side of the glass. Dana, win some, lose some. What's it looking like for you?
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm going to start with my loss. This has been a very difficult 2025 for me. I've had personal family loss. Friends and family have left the earth all of a sudden. Like, everybody leaving now. It's like a little heavy. But I'd say that's my loss so far. But on the opposite side of that, I mean, still kind of working on myself, and that includes reading books. Because your girl don't be reading books like I may look like I do. So I kind of tend to do like my little audio books. And I finished the book, y'all.
What did you read?
Finished the book.
Oh, there you go. You
I did. I read the second installment by, I think it's Jane Allen, Black Girls Must Be Magic. And then I read Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. I read a book, y'all. I finished it. It was so good. I'm ready for this third book because I didn't know what's going to happen to the Miss Tabitha in this book. Her name Tabitha Brown, too. And this baby she done had, like, what's going on? This man she supposed to marry, this little scandalous little book, Black stories. So I kind of feel proud of myself, even though it's been like a little heavy season for me. I'm still trying to grow a little bit. So that's my wins and losses.
All right, that's good, Dana. I thought it was funny that you said you don't be reading like you look like you do.
Because I don't. People
That's
think
hilarious.
I am smart and very intelligent. I don't read books. I just listen to what people say.
You look like you got a book right there.
And don't. And do not.
Looking all studious.
Right.
I told y'all I stopped at my bachelor's now. I wasn't trying to keep going to school. I did my best.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Okay. So for me this week, I got to take my wins where I can get them. Well, recently, I'm gonna say this week, but recently, my Los Angeles Lakers beat the Boston Celtics. And anytime that they beat the Boston Celtics, I'm a happy man.
Oh boy.
That's what I live for, especially during times like now, when I know after Anthony Davis, who has been injured, looks like he's not going to probably be around much for the rest of the season. Now that I know that, I mean, it was already pretty much a foregone conclusion. We weren't going to be making it to the championship. I don't care what other people say. I got to be realistic. So I'm glad that we at least got that win against Boston, and we gave them the business. So that was a real win for me because I love beating Boston. It's
Anthony,
a long.
clearly.
I'm stressing out over here. I'm stressing out over here.
You got problems with that? What's the problem? Speak your piece, brother.
Well, you know, I'm a Boston native. I'm from Boston originally, and so I am all for Boston sports. That's actually my loss. Is your win, right? So,
oh man, so yeah, that's my
funny.
win. That's my win. Like I said, I'll take my wins where I can get them. You got to get them where you can these days. My loss. I'm handing out the loss this week goes to the F around and find out advocates. Here's what I mean. What I realize is that every single day I look around, there's someone who's pointing to something that the Trump administration has done and said, see, we tried to tell y'all. Now you're going to find out. You're going to learn today. And my thing is, if you've been living in America for a little while, then you should know by now they do not learn. There's that thing that you're waiting for, that realization that these people are supposed to come to, that this isn't the way we want things. It's not going to happen. It never happens. These are the same people whose ancestors risked their lives on the field of battle, shed blood in a civil war for slaves that they could never own. They weren't going to get those. They were better off not having slavery around, because then they could have gotten those jobs, but they didn't think about that. They fought and died on the field of battle simply because they thought being white was so precious that they needed to defend it. And do you think they learned from that? No, they put up statues to all of those people, and they still are advocating for millionaires who keep putting them in positions to shed their blood. If you look in so many different counties across the country, you will see where there were people who voted against anything that had to do with Obamacare and watched their own hospitals be shut down. These people are dying in their own counties because they don't have hospitals, and you think that there's something they could learn now. There is no learning. So the more time that you spend trying to convince them, that's a loss for you. And that's who's taking the L this week from me with Win Some, Lose Some. Melonee Gaines, forgive my rants. I have those from time to time.
Yeah, I feel like I can add to your rant.
Win some, lose some. What's it looking like for you?
I'm going to start out with my loss because I feel like as long as you bet on yourself, you can't lose. That's the kind of person I am. But because I'm a person that's in deep community with the city of Memphis and the state of Tennessee, I feel like as a state, as a people, as communities, we took a lot of losses. We lost our superintendent in the city of Memphis. And now the state has put together legislation to take over our school district. The legislative session has opened, and we just have a lot of issues as far as the state vouchers. And so knowing that we're losing funding in our public schools across the state of Tennessee. So I feel like that's such a loss to our children. Not these parents, not these elected officials, and Melonee love the babies. And I take that loss for them because they don't know what is going on and what's coming down the pipes. Now, on the other side of that, what gives me hope is that it is carnival season because I live between two states and I'm down here on the Gold Coast. And so it is carnival season. And one of my wins is I got my first king cake. So I am happy that I got my strawberry and cream cheese king cake from Paul's Pastry. And I feel like it's been a minute since I've had king cake. And so it's kind of nice to have something sweet after this very long and heavy week in America and in the South.
I feel that.
I've never had king cake, and I didn't know that they came in different flavors. Now you've piqued my interest. Strawberry and cream cheese.
That's my favorite.
Sounds delicious.
Oh my God.
Cake.
Yeah. It is carnival season. I just joined a Mardi Gras cruise. So I'll be in a parade on the coast here in a few weeks, throwing out my throws and it'll be great. I love carnival season. Good time to blow some steam.
Sounds like fun. Anthony Stewart, win some, lose some, brother. What's it looking like for you?
Win some, lose some. All right. So for my wins, I think I have two. The first win I would say is I was able to network with a woman who started the AP African American course in Massachusetts. She brought the African American course to my home state. And so that was very cool for me. I got to network with her and talk with her and pick her brain on a few things. And I thought that was amazing because when I was in school, that's all I could have asked for was just an African American course, let alone an AP one. So
yeah,
I thought that was great. Another win would definitely be the release of my book. I'm very proud of it. I think that's definitely a win. I have to count that. Thank you. And in terms of a loss, when the new year started, I had all these plans and get back in the gym. I'm gonna do this and do that. And over the past week, I've been a little busy with work. I haven't done it the way that I would like to. So I think on a personal side, I think that's a loss. But we try not to take too many losses though. We want lessons. So so I'm gonna use it as a lesson and move forward there. So I would say that.
You can do it.
Yeah. Consistency is about is if you keep trying. That's what consistency is. It doesn't look the same every day. So
absolutely. Yeah. So
that's a good look. That is a good look. All right, and don't take it too hard about the Celtics. I'm sure they're going to be.
Yeah, and that's another loss. I'm on a Lakers show, so but we're not gonna hold it against you.
Yeah, they're looking good. All things considered, by June,
we're gonna win it again. We'll win it again. Don't worry.
It's possible. It's possible. I'll say that it's possible. So,
right.
Yeah.
Dana, you're not into basketball.
No.
You see, we're both like
I'm just nodding and smiling. Yeah, go boys.
It's all books over there with Dana. That's all she's into. She's
I was gonna ask about the Super Bowl, but I know Van has been studying his boycott of the NFL. But I was like, it's the Chiefs and the Eagles again.
I thought we were boycotting the NBA, so I'm still over here.
I don't know. They lost me. I don't know.
Are we?
I haven't been boycotting the NBA. I didn't know we were doing that. I've been boycotting the NFL.
The NFL, we don't.
So what about the Super Bowl, Dana? What were you gonna?
Oh, I'm
add?
probably gonna watch the performance. I mean, I watch more football than I don't. Let me not say it like that. I don't be watching football like that. I watch the Titans, but when they win. But I understand football way more than basketball. I don't know what's going on in basketball. But I'm gonna watch this little Super Bowl because Kendrick Lamar, you got SZA. This gonna be interesting. Who's gonna be performing with him? They've never announced a special guest like that before. They made a whole nother commercial for SZA to now be joining him. And they're going on tour. What does this mean? What is Drake gonna do? This is crazy. I'm excited.
I'm so salty that Lil Wayne wasn't invited. That is a heel.
Really?
I feel like Lil Wayne should have got it, but whatever.
Oh no,
not older Kendrick this year. I wouldn't say so.
I love Wayne though.
Lil Wayne.
I love Wayne too. I like featuring Lil Wayne. That's the Lil Wayne I remember that I like. Current Lil Wayne, I'm a little sketchy on. I don't know.
You gotta see Lil Wayne live.
His recent performances, I don't know.
Like you seen
Have
him
you seen
live?
the recent ones? You seen his recent live?
Okay.
When?
What did I see Lil Wayne? That was like at that same one music fest I was talking about earlier with Jasmine Sullivan. He was there that year. I love Lil Wayne too. Lifelong.
No, we love Wayne.
He was 15. Like I have been listening to Lil Wayne consistently.
Yeah, I agree. He's been dope for a long time. I'm just kind of, I don't know. It's something about every time I see him, his locks look like fried catfish.
No, they do not.
Fried hard.
I just had catfish last night.
That's a visual.
Some of the crispy
That's a
coming
visual.
off. The meat was loose from the.
Get your batter. Get your batter.
Yeah, the batter ain't right.
Little pieces of white kind of hanging down.
I
don't know. He just makes me feel weird when I see him. He could be great. I don't. He could go on the Super Bowl stage and just blow it away for all I know. I don't know.
Bring everybody out. He could bring the whole city out. Really, I think he just like how Kendrick brought the whole city out. Lil Wayne has the same capacity, and I'm not just talking about the hip hop and rap artists. You have jazz artists that live there that mess with Lil Wayne. I think it would have been a phenomenal way to bring the entire city. Cash Money, No Limit, just anybody. Irma Thomas, the Neville Brothers.
Let me see him on a tiny desk first, because Juvenile Tiny Desk was lit. Let me see Wayne on a tiny desk first, just so I can see. Okay,
the Hot Boys.
Right.
You know, just on the Hot Boys, bring the Hot Boys out. I think that his catalog is way too extensive, and he is consistent when he comes to the rhyming. I think that he is eccentric. I don't know if that's just the evolution of his personality, mental health, or substance abuse over the years.
That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me. That's what concerns me. Just that. Everything else you name, I completely agree.
But he ain't drooling out his mouth every time he do an interview like some of these rappers that are popping pills on camera.
Yeah, but his face was a little swollen, and something was going on. Something was going on medically.
Now you can tell,
That's the thing. It's like, he's great. I agree with everything you're saying. It's just like, I'm just in a place right now. Every time I see him, I'm like, I wouldn't let him borrow my car, like to even go to the convenience store for a moment, let alone give him keys to the Super Bowl.
Looking a little mangy. Just a little
mangy. That's the word I'm looking for, mangy.
This
He looks like he needs to be dipped.
My brother, no good. About my brother.
I love Lil
Wayne. The one to lead.
She ain't going for
it. And y'all gonna be smirching his name.
That ain't his name. It's the look. Little mangy.
Yeah, it's just the look.
It's just the look. You're right. I'm sorry.
Kendrick gonna go out of his way to make it a black experience, though. He's gonna make folks uncomfortable. I think anytime he has a stage like that, he's So I think
I hope he does.
I think he will.
West Coast is up right now. West Coast is up for sure. As far
I
as
hope he makes white people uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm betting on it. Yeah.
That's a good note to end. Yeah, let's hope he does that. That's right.
Yeah. Let's also. Okay, so my pick that I've decided to go with, again, when it comes to live performances, I'm into artists that I'm into because they are good performers, not because they may have a song out I like or anything like that. And a lot of the artists that I like to listen to recorded, I never want to see perform. I've seen Jay-Z live. I love to listen to Jay-Z. I don't want to see Jay-Z live again. It was nothing interesting about it. It's just not for me. But one of the greatest live performers I have ever seen, and I've seen him twice, and both times I was astonished at how good he was. That is my boy, Charlie Wilson. Charlie Wilson puts on a show. And I mean,
legendary.
from beginning to end, from the time he steps out there to the time he's done, you feel like you have gotten your money worth 2 times over. He's incredible. So that's what I'm going with today. Charlie Wilson. The song that I'm going to go with is not a song I've ever heard him perform live. It's just a song that I like. Can't Live Without You, one of his newer songs. And by new, I mean at least probably the last decade or maybe 15 years. I don't know. I lose track. Whatever the case. That's what I'm going with. Charlie Wilson, Can't Live Without You, right here on the Scenario. When we come back, we are going to get into songs in the key of.
What's up, y'all? It's your man Stokely here, hanging out right here on the Scenario. Keep it locked.
Hey, what's up? This is Tamia, and right now you're listening to The Scenario.
What's up, y'all? This is Uncle Charlie, last name Wilson, and you're listening to The Scenario Show.
All right. Still listening to The Scenario. I often joke about this because I still have a lot of radio in me. I'm so used to doing radio that I have a way of telling people that they're still listening to the Scenario, even though they went and scrolled and looked for this show and then picked it themselves. So they know that's what they're listening to, but I can't help it. I'm used to giving that tag as if we were coming back from a commercial. What can I say? It's radio in me. Anyway, now we're going to just get into how music usually shapes our lives with one of our new segments entitled Songs in the Key of. And today we're looking at songs in the key of Anthony Stewart. We're going to be asking him about the playlist that makes up his life. Let's get into the soundtrack of his life. And I'm going to start, since we've been getting into the live music thing, that's the first thing that I think we're going to ask. If you could go back in the time machine and go to one concert to an artist that you would not be able to see right now, if you could go in a time machine right now and to see one artist live, who would it be?
I'd say BB King. BB King.
Why is that? You're a blues man?
I am. I love blues. I love the blues. Me and my grandfather, we used to listen to blues all the time, so I'm a huge blues fan. But BB King, I think that he brought a certain level of showmanship to blues in general, to that genre, that I think we hadn't necessarily seen before. And just as a guitarist, he's revered by the best of them, right? Many people put him in the top 3 guitarists of all time. So I think just that feeling, that electrifying feeling that he would bring to an arena or a stage, I think that BB King would definitely be mine. Yeah.
That's a good one.
BB King.
Yeah, BB King.
Well, I got a question, and I'll even answer the question before I ask. I'll answer mine. Give you my answer first after I ask it. What song reminds you of your favorite TV show? For example, for me, it's My Funny Valentine, because I remember Cal Barker on Living Single had sung that song hilariously, by I add, to Maxine Shaw, Attorney at Law, and she was just so smitten. And it just always reminded me of that, because also T.C. Carson is hilarious to me, even though it's not meant to be. I follow him on Instagram. He's hilarious. You better sing, sir. Sing that Jizzy Jazz. So what song? Toe that napkin up. Right. So what song reminds you of one of your favorite TV shows?
I would say This Is For the Cool by Babyface. I think that reminds me of the Stefan on Family Matters when he was dancing to it. I don't know. It's one of the most nostalgic. Whenever I hear that song, I immediately think of that scene when Stefan was dancing in the living room with Lauren at the party. Yeah, I would say that one.
Anybody else can answer too. That was actually a pretty good question I asked.
Absolutely.
That was a great question.
If I don't mind myself.
That's a tough one. I have to think about that because, of course, immediately the first thing I thought about was Ray Charles' "Nighttime's the Right Time" Cosby Show, which is an iconic performance. And it's also a song I actually do love. But I like a lot of Ray Charles. I'm trying to think of another one. I'll tell you another one, which is interestingly enough, also the first time I ever heard this song was on the Cosby Show. Parliament Funkadelic, Cosmic Slop. They were playing it on the radio on the show as Cliff walks into the room and the kids are in the kitchen and they're listening to Cosmic Slop. In the middle of the 80s, the weirdest thing that ever happened on the Cosby Show, and I have no idea why of all the songs in the world they were playing Cosmic Slop on the Cosby Show, but they were. And if you ever hear the song, which is about a woman who had to raise 2 children by herself in poverty and had to turn to prostitution in order to do so, and was praying to get out of her situation and was encountered by the devil. Again,
Yeah.
weirdest moment in the entire Cosby Show.
Existential moment.
How about that?
That is profound. Well, I'm gonna go with doing the butt. Different world. I feel like when Ron was doing the club with Mr. Gaines, and I feel like I'm not sure if the band was there or not, or maybe I'm imagining this episode, but just thinking about that song or just hearing it just reminds me of the club scenes from that season of A Different World.
Yeah, that's funny. Just one aside. One of the funny things about sitcoms back in the day was how they would always kind of put. Like, I remember when they brought In Vogue in on A Different World, and they were the Mr. Gaines 4 nerdy, I think nieces or whatever, and they were supposed to be all nerdy, and somehow because they had glasses on, that we were all supposed to just be like, "Oh, these 4 women are not fine."
They look like they read books.
Oh, they Dana Dane.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pulling
like,
me.
It's like, hold on. I can see. I can tell. I don't care what you're telling me that I'm supposed to be like, well, who would want to see them on stage? I would want to see them on stage. Glasses and all. You're not fooling anybody. What's that supposed to be?
All right. They run into each other on the stage and everything.
Yeah. I know y'all don't remember this one because y'all probably weren't watching this show, but The Game, back when I was like,
oh my God,
younger. Okay.
Still upset for Melonee.
Okay, good, 'cause I feel like they probably frown because like The Game. Do y'all remember the scene when Tasha Mack, she was working for some agency, and she started singing "Take a Bow" by Rihanna, like out the blue?
Hilarious.
That had,
Hilarious.
from the moment I seen it, that's what it always reminds me of. Tasha
Classic.
Mack singing
Right.
that.
Yeah, and she wasn't singing it happy either.
It wasn't.
Right.
I was like, why did they write
Little
that in there? That was awkward
that
a
was
little bit.
hilarious. I still remember that in real time. That was funny. Yeah.
I didn't see that. And then I'll have you know that I actually used to watch The Game, but I stopped watching it when it stopped being a sitcom. When it became more of a soap opera, I left it alone. It wasn't.
I can see
They
that.
got the lab track.
Yeah, I
You
can
like
see
that.
It was less. Yeah, it just I could tell they're leaning less sitcom and more soap opera. And I was like,
I could agree with that. I could agree with
Yeah.
so I had to take a bow. See what I did there?
Brought it all the way back around. And it did.
All right. So Heartbreak. If you were to have a track playing over one of your greatest moments of heartbreak, what would that track be?
I would probably say Distant Lover, Marvin Gaye. That's probably one.
What's the story behind that?
I don't know. It just puts me in that mood. I don't think there's necessarily
Not you in his
a
business.
story, but
Now.
he wants to tea, huh?
No, I mean, it's just us here, bro. Ain't nobody, it's just me and you.
Right. What? Right. No, I don't. I think it just reminds me of like a heartbreak due to distance, right? It just, whenever I think of Distant Lover, when I hear it, it's just like, okay, even though I know it's an active love song, it still feels like, okay, well, this feels almost like a breakup, like he's longing for someone. So it puts me in a space in that way. Yeah.
Mine would have to be Home by Carole King. It's something about that song. It's just like, I'm heartbroken. I guess I'll go home now. But not to my home, to a distant home. But for some reason, that was one of my first songs that I could think of as heartbreak. It's a heartbreaking song to some degree.
What was his name?
Hey, messy.
Oh,
She almost said it too. I was like,
that's another episode.
She about to say it.
Okay.
Look, you almost got Anthony
Almost got
with his song. We are not naming Anthony. We're not naming names today.
Okay.
Right. I see. Okay.
I just want you. I just want
Lead
you
the
to
field.
know this is
Look,
a
I had to pause to make sure he was talking. I looked at Dana like,
talking to you.
Dana, did you see how I did that though, right?
I saw. I was
The
with
trick is to soften your tone.
you.
What was
Yeah. Put
she was
an
about
over
to
on you
say?
real
She was
quick.
about to say it too.
And-
I
and-
was, because I was like, I don't know if he's talking to me or not.
That's hilarious.
Next question.
Okay, my next one is if you had to send somebody one song that describes your work ethic, what would you send them?
Every damn hustling.
Ooh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Every damn hustling, yeah. That's my Rick Ross. Yeah.
That does the trick every time.
That does
It
the
really
trick.
does.
Yeah, every time. Yeah.
That's a good one. Because that was what I was going to say, too.
Give me my bag, Young Dolph.
Which one?
Okay.
Give me my bag, Young Dolph.
I'm with that. I'm with
See
that.
that?
I didn't even thought of my own answer. Go ahead, man.
No, I think Rick Ross every damn
That's a
hustle.
good
Yeah,
one.
you can't go wrong with
Can't
that.
go wrong with that.
When
Yeah.
it comes on,
Thumbs it up.
you feel it. You feel like, yeah,
Trying to make some money, right?
yeah, let's make this happen. Let's make this happen.
Right.
Yeah, make you feel like I don't even be hustling, but I'm about to. I'm about to grind and get something. Let's go.
Right. I'm leaving here with something.
The song that they would play at your celebration of life.
Wow, that's a tough one. I gotta think about that.
I'm gonna go with "Harvest of the World," Isley Brothers.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
I want to know if I've left behind a lot of seeds that have borne good fruit.
I think I'm gonna say Zoom. Zoom by the Commodores.
Another good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Zoom. Yeah.
Another good one. Yeah. What about you, Dana?
I don't know. I was just gonna say any gospel song. Just pick one that mean I done did my job well and y'all love me and y'all is crying over my casket somewhere and y'all just don't want me to go. Like just something that just gives that vibe.
Stomp by Kirk Franklin.
Exactly. Yeah.
As we coming out, we gonna march to Stone.
Exactly.
For the life was supposed to
That's funny. Okay. I think I ain't got a third one. Let me think off top. What would you say? What would you send someone if they asked you, what's a song that, well, I don't want to make it sad. I'm about to say that makes you cry. I don't want to make it sad, man. That made it sad.
My bad.
What's the song that kind of like gets you emotional? Like, it may not have to be like sad, but something just kind of like stirs up some emotion in you. What would you send them? Like, hey, I need a good cry. Play this.
I try not to listen to too much music that get me sad.
Sometimes it just happens. It's a song that makes me cry. Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness. It's not a sad song, but it's a family thing that we just do that just makes me sad. Cried about it the other day. It ain't necessarily a sad song. It's pretty good uplifting song. But it's something like that.
Yeah, it just evokes emotion. It evokes that emotion. Yeah.
I was thinking of a Sounds of Blackness song, but I felt like it wasn't appropriate. And my best friend Natalie and I talk about Soul Holiday. It's a song that we play throughout the year because we feel like any occasion where we have achieved something, got a job, we done made groceries and successful at it. Like, girl, I got Soul Holiday. I don't know what it is about that song, but there have been times where it is just like hit me. And it's just like, I'm thinking about family, what it's taking to support everybody, to be present. And I'm just trying to get home for Easter. I'm trying to get home for the 4th or whatever it is. And Soul Holiday is just a song that I return to often. It's an element of emotion in that song that just, it pulls me together. I can say that. It's more than just a holiday song. It's something black.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily say sad, but it moves me emotionally. I think would be "Open Up My Heart" by Yolanda.
Job.
I would say that.
Burst into tears.
It's a great. Yeah, right. It's definitely
She said alone in a room.
Yeah.
I said, oh.
Right. Right. That'll get you right.
No more.
This is locked up right here.
That's it. Right.
All the coats locked up.
I'll tell you something that emotionally evokes that for me. Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers. Jesus Gave Me Water, and it's an up tempo, like what you would call in the quartet realm a knee slapper. But it reminds me of my grandmother. She's of that era of the Sam Cooke Soul Stirrers type thing, and it always makes me think of her. And yeah, it's one of those songs that draws a lot of emotion for me. It just makes me think of listening to her sing because you could tell she grew up listening to Sam Cooke because the way she sings, those inflections, that the runs and all that. She was a really good singer. That it's that same type of thing. So yeah, that's whenever I hear Sam Cooke, anything Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers evokes that feeling. Yeah, good question, Dana. I like that. All right,
off the dome.
All right, that is Songs in the Key of. All right. So as always, we always like to talk about music with our guests and things because one of the things I've learned, even when they don't tell you who it was, it broke their heart. It does give you an insight into who they are. People when people
Right.
talk about music, they talk about themselves. It's just a natural thing.
For
So
sure.
yeah, absolutely. Melanie, have we gotten your song pick yet?
Oh, my live performance. Okay.
Yeah, we want to know who your favorite one is.
My
The favorite, your
favorite
greatest live performance you ever saw.
greatest live performance I have seen. There have been a number, but if I had to look at most recent, it would be Anderson .Paak at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival last spring. And it had been 10 years since I had seen Anderson .Paak. And when I tell you to see the evolution of his growth, when he brought out all of his artists like Ray Khalil, his voice, just how he commanded the stage, I saw the growth of an amazing artist. So it was great to see him. And I would probably say, Anderson .Paak, definitely, hands down.
All right. We're going to check out some Anderson .Paak right here on the Scenario. When we come back, we will close things out. What up, fellow Scenarians? Be sure to stay locked in by subscribing to www.thescenarioradioshow.com and pull up a seat to the grown-ups table. Also, hit the notification button to make sure you don't miss any Real Talk with the playlist. We're about to close things out like we always do on the Scenario Radio Show by finding out what's the scenario, starting on the other side of the glass with our producer, Dana Dane. Dana, what's the scenario?
Yeah, man, it's a lot, again, going on this year so far. And it's a lot of things that's kind of being said that's kind of putting a lot of fear in our heart. Not that it ain't scary, but I feel like we need to kind of do our own research as well. See what fits in your life and what doesn't. See what you may need to boycott and what you may not choose to boycott. But ultimately, you got to take care of your own mental health. And, that's the scenario. I'm about to say, we got to take care of black folk too. But, if you want to be independent in your thoughts and thinkings, go ahead and do that too. And that's the scenario.
All right. Anthony Stewart, sir, what
Yes.
is the scenario?
Well, firstly, I want to thank you all for having me. I think this is a phenomenal show. I love what you all bring to the culture. I'd like to ask everybody to go out and support me at arsjmedia.com and support my book, By the Hand or By the Pen. And that's the scenario.
All right. Again, y'all, go ahead and get that book. We always talking about we need more Black history. This is create your own curriculum in your home. Get the book.
Absolutely.
Melonee Gaines, our special guest co-host. What's the scenario?
The scenario is that I am taking some time for myself. I'm definitely with Dana as far as taking care of self. Finding myself as part of that generation that are caregivers to our parents and grandparents. And so just being mindful of taking care of myself and knowing that I got a little extra time to write. So I'm trying to be like Anthony and finish my book up this year so I can really be writer for real. It's one thing to have articles, but to put out a book of your thoughts and ideas, and mine is fiction. And I'm hoping that I can spend a lot more time with that. And that's the scenario.
All right, yeah, keep us posted on that. I look forward to seeing what you got.
It is pouring out of me too. So just being able to take some time off. If you have that on your job, take it. And I've taken 6 weeks and I have additional sick leave just to make sure that my folks are good. My mama is good. But in this time, I have been sleeping. I don't have to wake up and get ready for work and go through that grind. So I feel like my brain is rewiring differently and my creativity is flowing. So I love what's happening on this side of my life. So I'm definitely going to embrace it.
That's a beautiful thing when we find ourselves able to take a moment to reevaluate our lives and where we are, because far too often we're not really thinking about where we are. You know what I'm saying? We're so much in a grind that we're simply just doing. We're doing the best that we can do and we're surviving. But yeah, that's dope that you're in that space and that you're able to also have this outpouring of creativity is coming from as well.
I've been grinding since I was 16. I've never taken a break. I've had a child and I went back after 5 weeks, but we didn't really have that coverage at that time. So a lot has happened in the last 20 years. But to never have a break in between jobs since 16, and I'm 45 going on 46 in a few weeks.
Baby, you was tired.
I am. I was just like, when I got home for Christmas, I was like, all right, I'm going to go lay down. And I laid down for 2.5 weeks with the flu. You know, my body gave out. I was just, you tired and you get sick and stuff all the time. Your body is tapped out.
Yeah.
So this has been a great recuperation time for me.
I'm glad for it. I'm glad for it then. Yeah.
Cool.
Closing out, I want to say one of the, I think the recurring things that kept coming up in this particular episode was community. I want to encourage each of you to find community. We talk often about the fact that we wish there was more community and that we wish people supported one another more, or we always say black people don't stick together, which I really don't believe that, because I've seen black people stick together. And what I really believe is that people generally have issues sticking together. And it doesn't have anything to do with being black. But whatever the case, if you really believe in the value of community, the first place you need to start is by being community. See who has a need. Try to help them meet that need. Build someone else up. Start the community that you are looking for if you can't find it anywhere else. But if you aren't able to start it, then look. Take the chance on trusting a few other people with what you've got going on. That means that those people are going to be fallible. That means that they are not going to be perfect. They're not going to have it all together. But there's never been a period in the history of America where us as black people have had it all together. But there has been a period where we were trying our best and doing what we had with what little we had to look out for one another. And I'm asking you all to do the same. Don't complain about what's not there if you're not willing to be that thing in some capacity. You don't have to have it all figured out, but you can be community. Someone can be the beneficiary of your love and your care right now. Be community. And that's the scenario. I want to thank our special guest, co-host, writer, Melonee Gaines. Thank you, Melonee. We got to have you come in again as soon as possible. Our guest, Anthony Stewart. Author Anthony Stewart. Y'all make sure, again, check out that book. It's good stuff. Y'all got to get a hold to it. This is the time. Black History Month is 365 days. A lot of great stuff. Y'all make sure to stay tuned with us on www.thescenarioradioshow.com. We've got some really good shows coming up in the upcoming weeks. We got some more freestyle stuff. We are going to be covering heirs property. We've got a show called Promised Land that'll be talking about heirs property, talking about some of the common things that happen so often when our elders don't necessarily take care of the business they need to make sure that we inherit the things that we have coming to us, and how to get around that and fix some of that. We got a show we're going to be talking about communication and conflict resolution in couples, the things that we've learned. It's called We Need a Resolution. That's one of our great ones that we've got coming up.
We're talking about who hurt you earlier, so I see what you're getting at. So,
yeah.
I see what you're doing, babe.
Hey.
There's always something going on there. And we also got a show talking about celebrity obsession. You a fan? Do we go too far with that? How much do we expect from our celebrities? Why are we listening to everything that they say and taking it as gospel? A lot of that good stuff. Make sure to check us out. Once again, www.thescenarioradioshow.com. You subscribe, you will not miss any of it. So, with that being said, on behalf of the team, Dana Dang doing the dang thing on the other side of the glass, I am Van Everett saying take care of one another, and God willing, we'll talk again soon. Peace out.